Governments get away with inflation every day. But what if I told you it used to be one of the most destructive and oldest crimes in the world that was punishable by mutilation and death for a millennia? Let's mine deep. The earliest forms of coinage emerged in Lydia in 6th century BC, and their use marked the beginning of a new age for monetary technology. But as coins began to be accepted for goods and services, people instantly began trying to cheat the system. People realized that so long as people were trading valuables, goods, and services for coins, whoever could get their hands on the most coins for the least effort would win. This could mean trying to earn the most efficient way possible or creating fake coins. It seems like a victimless crime on the surface, but its punishments have been some of the harshest in history. In the Roman Empire, counterfeiters would be burnt alive, decapitated, or thrown from a steep cliff on the Capitol Hill in Rome. Shortly later, under the Song Dynasty in China, written in their banknotes was, "Those who counterfeit will be decapitated." Then came medieval Europe, where counterfeiters would be killed or even have their hands cut off. In 1699, England passed an act making it punishable by death. The list goes on. Britain still was executing people for creating new units of currency until just 200 years ago, barely 3 generations or 3 grandmas ago. But English common law, the foundation of Western justice systems, divides crimes into 2 categories: contract law and tort law. Contract law essentially states that you must do all you have agreed to do, and tort law can be summarized with "do not encroach on other persons or their property." So, which of these principles does counterfeiting violate? You might guess contract law, since you're agreeing to pay someone and then handing them fake money instead. But this is not why the punishments have been so severe. The real reason is that by creating new units of currency, you're encroaching on the property of others. Even though you're not taking any of their coins, you're increasing the amount of coins in circulation. And since nothing escapes the law of supply and demand, this supply increase inevitably devalues everyone else's money. It doesn't matter if a human counterfeits or a robot or an alien. When new money gets created, everyone gets poorer. Everyone except the counterfeiter, which makes it a form of theft. That is why it's illegal unless you're a central bank. So why should you care? Central banks counterfeit all the time. In deciding when and how much counterfeiting to do is how lots of their employees spend most of their time. So surely it's only a matter of time until the US government comes bursting through the doors of the Federal Reserve to arrest all the counterfeiters, right? Well, that's the problem. They counterfeit on behalf of the US government. And when they counterfeit, it's never usually as blatant as just revving up the money printer for another round with the boys. For them, counterfeiting takes other names: open market operations, commercial paper funding facilities, discount window lending, and my personal favorite, quantitative easing. And while many economists or Federal Reserve employees might quickly rebut and call these loans, the numbers speak for themselves. The quantity of new dollars that have entered the system has increased by 696% in just the last 15 years. Individuals and corporations can't print those without purchasing government debt. So who else is doing it? Well, it's illegal for the government to print it directly. They still make the laws. And there's nothing stopping them from saying the Federal Reserve gets a hall pass to the money printer, so long as it serves the immediate interest of Uncle Sam, of course.
Don't miss Ava Vlaardingerbroek, Backstage.
When was that first time that you heard about Bitcoin, or how did you get introduced to Bitcoin?
I didn't really bother looking into it because I'm not very tech savvy. So I always thought, I don't know if I know how that works. I struggle like rebooting my computer. So it's like, I didn't know if that was for me. But I'm in political commentary. I'm very much against CBDCs. I have been fighting for the cause of the Dutch farmers here, property rights, just in general the freedom movement, I would say. And I'm very active on X, on Twitter, and I got a lot of Bitcoiners last year suddenly on my back saying, "Ava, you're a Bitcoiner without knowing it. Like we need to orange pill you." And I was like, guys, by all means, let's go. And then I got the Bitcoin standard sent to me by Seyfedin Ammous, and I was like, okay, it's time that I start reading about this. And that's how I got into Bitcoin. And I'm like, this is really interesting. I really like what this is about.
Bitcoin is freedom in a way.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I said on stage. I understood the essence of Bitcoin, so the freedom, sovereignty loving essence before I understood the technology. But the more I learn about the technology, the more I'm like, yeah, these are freedom loving people, and this is exactly what I stand for.
When you believe in freedom, I think you are a Bitcoiner. How can Bitcoin be a force for good?
Well, I mean, I think that sovereignty in a day and age where the government just takes more and more space, like in your private life, is always a good idea. So, I think government overreach in and of itself is a bad thing. And whether or not they use it for good, I would always be extremely wary of. I don't want some sort of entity to decide whatever I can spend my money on or not spend my money on. I think the freedom limitation tendency is very clear in the Western world, and I don't want to head to a social credit system like we see in China. And I do think that that is the road that we are on right now. So anything and anyone that opposes that is my friend. The Bitcoiners who are resourceful people, optimistic people, and who have actual alternatives to central bank digital currencies. I'm like, wait a second, no, we shouldn't give up all hope yet. And so it's extremely important that more and more people wake up to the fact that all these pretexts are in fact lies that the government's using, and that they also find people who are like, here, there is an alternative. You don't just have to be against CBDCs, you can also be in favor of something else. And I think that's what people need. So good for you guys.
Yeah.